All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another BVI Pilots podcast. It's been a little while. Great to be back with you. And today we've got a full house, I think. We've got John, as always, co-hosting alongside me. Hey, John, how you been doing?
Doing good, Declan. It's definitely been a minute, and it's good to be here with everybody. I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, thanks. And we've got Marshall in the back, just doing our audio engineering. And of course, feel free to step in, Marshall, if you have any questions to add to what we're already going to put in here.
Yeah. How's it going? I'm here in the big studio today, so there's a lot more stuff I can do.
We got the quality.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Love doing it on the console.
Okay, and we got both Andy and Jason, which is a rarity, I think, to get both of them on a podcast. How you been doing, Jason? It's definitely been a while since we had you on.
It's been a really long time. I don't actually I don't actually remember the last time, but no, I'm doing really well. It's going good.
That's great, and recovering hopefully from Expo, and you, Andy. Now you finally made it back after your trip all over the show.
Yeah. I was supposed to be home by midnight and didn't get home until close to 3 in the morning the next day.
Yeah, well, let's just start with the Expo, and we'll start with Jason. If you could just tell us a bit about your experience and anyone that you saw that was particularly cool, and some of the things you got up to there.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. This is fun. It's been a long time since I've been on here. The expo was a lot of fun. I'd never been to one of these before, so it was really neat to other than the extreme heat. It was 39 degrees Celsius, felt like 42 or 43, so completely insane. But no, I mean, as far as the expo, I mean, the staff there was great. The volunteers were great at the flight museum, just getting us around, helping us navigate the exhibit hall, which is, as blind people, is not the absolute easiest thing to do independently.
Yeah.
So it was great to have help there with that. But as far as just interesting things we saw. So on Friday they had sort of the showcase of vendors, and beyond ATC, of course, was definitely a highlight. They had a really interesting presentation. Um, the the new A2A aircraft that's coming out for Microsoft Flight Simulator it's going to be basically a redo of the Comanche, and just the level of detail. They had a really interesting video where they were highlighting some of the sounds and stuff. And I don't know yet that we're going to be able to support it, but we'll see. But the just the level of detail that A2A puts into those aircraft is pretty amazing. As far as the exhibits themselves, obviously we did talk to Microsoft Flight Simulator a little bit. The people that were there were mainly sort of sales and marketing people, so couldn't really get a lot of super useful information. We did track down Navigraph and had quite a lot of conversation with them because we really want to get them into TFM or TFM using their data. The trouble is that I think they just didn't quite know what we were doing, and when they'd go to test our app, they didn't know what to do with it because it doesn't really have a user interface and that sort of thing. So they weren't really sure what to do with it. But I think now we've talked to them, we've convinced them, we told them what we are, what we do, and so I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get into Navigraph hopefully before too much longer. And we did talk to Beyond ATC, and they are interested in working with us as far as because their ATC solution is all voice based, but we do have some questions about their UI for like just getting the thing started because it is based in Unity. So Unity has some accessibility features or an accessibility plugin, but they've talked about adding hotkeys and that sort of stuff. So we'll see where that goes. I mean, that's a ways off. We're still a few months away from a release on that. The other interesting one was fly-by-wire, because fly-by-wire being an open source aircraft, and I didn't actually realize they were open source. I knew they were free, but I didn't realize they were open source. So they actually have an FMC that we can access, very similar to what PMDG does. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go on here. But that one is looking pretty promising. But in addition to that, just going around exhibits and stuff, we got to take a flight in a PT-17 Stearman, which is like a 1930s era two-seater open cockpit aircraft, which is really, really fun. Other than that, we got a tour of the Lone Star Flight Museum Space Gallery. So just checking out a bunch of NASA artifacts. They let us, get in there and touch stuff. And we also got to get inside the space shuttle simulator where they actually trained astronauts on how to, on the cockpit of the space shuttle. So we got to touch all the panels and switches and all kinds of stuff like that. It's obviously not functional. It's in the museum, but yeah, really, really fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, I bet that was really interesting. And
It was.
yeah. I think a game changer could be that the voice command with Beyond ATC, I think is what you said it was called. That
Yep.
could definitely be a game changer, I think.
Definitely. I think it's the first ATC program that does all the phraseology properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Apart from Pro ATC.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be great. It's going to be great for VATSIM training. It's going to be great just for those who may want to fly offline. But of course, it's for those who don't know. It's going to use AI voices, so will require an internet connection. But there will be, from those that you might have heard, for example, on 11 Labs, which allows it basically to have a much more wide-ranging set of phraseology, which will generally be FAA approved and will change depending on region. So you'll be able to hear pretty much what you would hear in the real world and on VATSIM and respond to it with voice recognition. So what about you, Andy? Anything particular? How did you experience the Stearman? That sounds really cool.
So yeah, so it was the first time. It's actually my first time doing a live presentation in front of a in-face audience. So from what I've heard, our presentation went pretty well. Some of the interesting things were the fly-by-wire, as Jason mentioned. Probably one of the more interesting things. The other one that was really a hot topic, like he said, was I truly don't think they were getting what we were trying to do. The other problem that they had alluded to was that people come and go. So a lot of times what might happen is you start something up and somebody's assigned to handle it in their queue. They leave and it just sits stale in the queue, which defeats the purpose of a ticket manager. But what do you do? So we have an email out to them again. The Beyond ATC thing, the voices actually sound realistic instead of this PF3 or Pro ATC voices where they are like all robotic with some static integrated into them. So that would be interesting to get my hands on when that comes out. As far as the Stearman goes, it was pretty cool. Never been in an open cockpit before. Nonetheless, never been in a two-seater. The pilot we had kind of mentioned it to be more like a ride on a Harley, more than a plane ride, which makes sense because all you have breaking the wind in front of you is a windshield. It almost kind of looks like a windshield on a big old Harley too. Aside from the heat and the dog, when we were supposed to get home at midnight, got home at 3 in the morning, but fully recovered now. So, yeah, that's what I have so far for the overview.
So you had your dog was obviously your guide dog was with you, Andy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he went with me. He absolutely, which I didn't know this, he absolutely loves the airplane.
Did he like? I was gonna say, did he like flying in the airplanes? He enjoyed that, huh?
Yeah, he didn't ride in the Stearman. Jason watched him for me. Yeah. Well, not only
Oh,
that.
gotcha.
Well,
Yeah.
not only that, it would be a traumatic experience. So,
Well, yeah, 'cause it's so loud. So
yep.
loud.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
loud, so windy. But as
Yeah.
far as like the commercial flights to go to and
Yeah.
Yeah.
from, yeah, he absolutely loved those.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I knew he didn't go in the other one.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
went
Matching with the right owner.
overnight.
There you go.
no,
As
he
far as
liked
the Stearman,
those.
as far as the Stearman flight, I actually have audio of it. Once the aircraft is started up and moving, you can't. I mean, the only thing you can hear is the engine. But I mean, I can. What I was thinking I'd do is edit that down a bit and just post it somewhere. 'Cause I think it'd be fun for people to hear the stereo
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So we talked about Beyond ATC, and we don't know. That's probably going to release sometime this year. Let's do fly by wire then. So what are your guys' thoughts on fly by wire in terms of feasibility? As you said, we can pull FMC, time scales and panels and whatnot, that kind of thing.
So, well, at this point, we don't have a time frame. We're only in the feasibility studies and the proof of concept type of stuff.
Mhm.
From what we can tell, all of the panels that are existent, all the panels that do exist on the real Airbus do exist in their SDK. Their SDK is really well documented, really well. I mean, if you don't know what something is, then it doesn't exist, at which point you could just ask them to add it. As far as the FMC is concerned, we do have a working project that has a decently cleaned up version of the FMC. So, nice thing about that is it tells us like how many spaces text is over from another, like how wide are the columns, how many spaces are in between the two columns of text.
Oh, that's probably really helpful
Yeah,
with even
it
that. Yeah.
tells it tells us what color the text is, and then somehow we can make up some kind of textual indication on what color the text is, and then have a legend there like star means required, or text enclosed in whatever, may be optional or whatever. We haven't quite figured that out, but they do tell us what color things are, and it looks like it does fit the standard Airbus FMC color scheme. So that's always good.
Now, Andy, you was talking to me about something. We were talking. I'm trying to remember. It was something me and you had been talking about that you got to, that it was a program that you got to run behind it, and it was something
Oh,
you could either run,
yeah.
all the time or run it only when you're flying it. Talk about that a little bit to us. What does that involve as far as it needing to be used? I forget what it was called. I forget what that was called.
Yeah, and so the fly-by-wire stuff comes with an external application called SimBridge. And that is their
Okay, that's what it was.
that's the remote access point for their FMC, and hopefully at some point the EFB. And in order for TFM to get access to the remote FMC, that has to be running at all times during your flight.
Right, right.
Now there is an option to run it all the time. Whenever you sign in, it will just automatically start, but unless you're in the Neo almost all the time, I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it. It can get quite
Yeah.
spammy.
Yeah, so it was the electronic flight bag, wasn't it, that you really weren't sure about in terms of the accessibility, whether we could actually support that.
Yeah, so they have an electronic flight bag on the aircraft, and this is where you do things like configuring aircraft settings, sim brief integration, weight and payload, fuel and payload, stuff like that.
So that's kind of the heart of the programming, kind of.
Well, yeah, other than the FMCs, like how on the PMDG everything is done through the FMC. In
Right.
this, a lot of stuff is done through the FMC, but then things like fuel and payload and aircraft settings and stuff are all done through this electronic flight bag. Now the good news is they are looking into providing remote access to the electronic flight bag, but we don't have it yet. So, but we
Right,
are,
because without that, it wouldn't be possible without that. I guess is the thing. Like you got to
I
have
don't
that.
think so. I don't think so. I think we would have to have at least some of that. We may not need all of it, but I think
Right.
we'd need some of it.
Yeah.
So, but they are looking into it. It's something they know about even before we talked to them. It was something that they were wanting to do. Again, but because this is an open source project, I don't know how many developers they have.
Yeah.
It's going to be, we're going to have to see how long it's going to take them to do it. But at least they know
Mhm.
about it, and they seem willing to work with us. So.
Yeah, I'm like you. I didn't know it was open source. I never knew that. I thought I never knew that. But
Yeah,
learn something new
it
every
is.
day.
Yeah, it is, and it's it's obviously it's a lot of source code, and
Oh, I can imagine.
so it's it's something that is possible to implement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's amazing what they've done with it. I mean, they started out as a mod for the default Neo, and I remember flying it with AI when it came out, purely because it had
Mhm.
better sounds. And
Yeah.
now it's fully LNAV and VNAV and whatever, and everything's
They're
done
actually
to a very
working,
realistic level.
for those who like their long haul Airbuses, they're actually
The 380.
working on the 380-800.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 Can we get
that's a
that
big
too?
one. Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
it's
looking
amazing
forward
though.
to the I'm looking forward to the Neo. Definitely, I would love to have an Airbus with a proper FMC, as I'm sure everybody here in the
Yeah.
room would.
But I mean, just looking at let's say that the Airbus works out for us. That's it's a new airplane in our in our back pocket that we can now fly. The options are there. Like you don't want to fly PMDG, go to the Airbus, and I think it's a huge stepping stone. And where you guys started with programming to where it's leading to. I think it's a huge stepping stone.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we don't know. Like I said, we don't know how long it'll take them to get the EFB going and all that stuff. But
Sure.
it's encouraging for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Well, I know everyone's looking forward to any news on the Airbus, so I'm sure everyone keep your antenna focused on the blog and the WhatsApps and the mailing list and whatever else. And I'm sure whenever there's news, you'll hear about it. If not on the podcast. Right. I guess let's go on to kind of TFM, the progress on the new update. The .NET Framework 7 and FMC updates and all that good stuff. I think Andy's maybe a bit more across that, but correct me if I'm wrong. So whichever one of you wants to take it, feel free.
Okay, for those who haven't been following along, we some time ago discovered we could upgrade TFM to .NET 7, which is the newest version of .NET 7. And as a result of that, we are able to start using a new user interface library, officially called WPF. And that gives us a whole bunch of different possibilities that the old user interface stuff would not let us do. Like for an example, something simple, you can press command keys and manipulate different controls and buttons and switches as long as you're inside the window that they were created in without having to put keyboard focus on the button itself. Goes good in those high intense, high stress areas that you need to be paying attention to your controls, not what's got focus. FMC for the 737 has been completely rewritten. One of the nice things about it is you don't get the kickback on the refresh. So what I mean is in the current version of the FMC, when it refreshes, it will jump back a couple lines, or it may jump ahead a couple of lines, even though it's not supposed to. And so the new one, the cursor sticks right where you put it across the refresh. So if you're looking at that speed or that distance on waypoint number 1 in your legs page, that's where the cursor is going to stick. to the point where I was doing a flight the other day and I put the review cursor on the distance, and all I had to do was press numpad 5, and it would say, for an example, 10.5. When I did it again, 10.1, 10.4, whatever. And as a result of that, we were able to actually decrease the distance of refreshes. So it's now 10 seconds instead of 30 seconds. And you can also change your line select keys on the fly. So just all you have to do is open the FMC and press Control L, and it will switch your line select keys on the fly. That, I think, pretty much is an overview on the FMC.
Now,
For the most part, there's other little things here and there, but those are the big things.
yeah. And if anybody wanted to see more detail on that, me and Andy's done some sneak peek stuff on it, and then I did a few flights, with the beta part of it. Now, granted, this is something that, Andy and Jason's not saying, hey, go and, go grab this and fly away. You'll have no problems. But if you want to see some details with it, you could go back and watch one of the sneak peeks, or when me and Andy do another one, or, something. But I think all in all, I think, one of the big things, like, is, going through the pages when you're on your leg page and you do alt down arrow, alt up arrow. I mean, it's just pretty much instant. When you hit it, it's there. And I noticed, that speed difference. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for the most part, everything, well, yeah, in every part, everything is faster. So the next thing that we are working on at this point are the 737 panels, and in a good way, the new panels dialogue doesn't even look close to the old one. Not even close to the same thing as the old one.
Yeah, go watch the sneak
Yeah.
peek, because you'll see it's a lot different.
Yeah, so you have the ability to search for different controls, and all you have to do is just type LNAV into the search box and hit enter, and it will bring back all of the panels that reference the LNAV control. If you don't know where a particular panel is located, just type its name or part of its name, and it will appear in the search results. You can, another feature that was possible now that we've moved up is the ability to rearrange your panels and actually save them, so when TFM starts later, you have your saved panel layout back again. So that was a huge thing. There's also a reset panels button in the dialog, so if you need to factory reset your panels layout, then just press F5 and there you go. Just like a day or so ago, I rewrote the destination dialog. Has the same old typical controls in it, except for this time it now includes lock and RNAVs, and not just ILS. And the runways in the drop down are preceded by a lock or ILS, so you know which one you're looking for or not looking for. The other extra feature that I've been trying to get work and have mostly working is the ability to save your runway and your destination runway, your destination airport. So in the event that TFM crashes or you have to restart it or whatever, and you're on final approach 1.5 miles out from touchdown, you get your runway back when TFM restarts. That is what we have with the new upgrades at this point. So TFM is like in 10 big, huge pieces at the minute. So definitely is not definitely not flyable, especially for novice people.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know if I would
mean,
even recommend it for experienced people per se. But yeah, that's what we have for the update so far.
The reason that if you're going to ask, well, how are you landing with it if you can't fly with it? Well, I just want to make clear that you can, but it's far from being completed. So thanks. Without first officer, it wouldn't be possible at all. Like Andy said, if you're experienced, and you could, but if you're new, that's at your own risk.
Yeah,
Of course,
So,
pretty
yeah, and you
much.
may well end up having issues. If something goes wrong, it's not supported necessarily. And the only other thing, Andy, was I maybe you mentioned this and I tuned out, but did you mention the DME thing?
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking about that. And for those who don't know yet, this is a sneak peek of DME intersection to runway as a new feature. And basically what it is DME is the distance measurement equipment. What it does is it gives you the distance arc between you and the runway. So it actually considers your turns and everything. It's almost like a turn coordinator outside of your airplane, set more at the localizer's location. And so what a lot of times ATC may tell you at 9 DME slow down to 180, or they may tell you at 5 DME take a 50-degree turn to the left to heading 200, that type of thing. So it helps coordinate your turns onto final approach.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be useful with ATC because right now we're doing a bit of a botch job, as people will know, with the distance to destination command, which is accurate enough when you're going direct to the runway, but when you've got a bunch of waypoints, the DME arc is going to be slightly different and more accurate. So, given that it's focusing on the runway and not your approach waypoints or whatever, so that's going to be useful and I think gives a bit more accuracy. Was there anything else you wanted to mention in terms of TFM? And then I'm just going to go on to FS 2024 and your thoughts on that.
I can't think of anything right now other than to say that the new .NET 7 stuff is not in preview yet. It's still private builds.
Yeah.
That we're testing and working on and things like that. So if anybody sees them on stream, you can get these private builds from GitHub repository. It's not anything special. So use at your own risk. And we will let everybody know. Yeah, we'll let everybody know when an actual preview comes out.
Yeah, because, like I said, Andy, me and you, we do sneak peeks and stuff. And we always say that, hey, you want to go grab it and fly with it, that's fine. Hey, it's in stages of being programmed. It's beta. It's not even beta really. I mean, it is beta, but it's not like beta where here you go, test this out. If you have a problem, let me know, type of beta.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I want to mention really, really super quick before we switch gears off into 2024. That is the all-known subject of P3D6. It's not out now, but when it does come out, a personal license will be $60. There's no longer an academic license. Yeah, professional licenses and professional plus licenses are going to be $500-600+.
wow.
And they're also going to remove the little watermark. As far as PMDG is concerned, we don't know if they're going to fix their airplanes for P3D6 or not. So that's kind of what we're waiting on before we determine if what we're going to do with 6.
And it makes you wonder because, when P3D5 came out, it was a little more accessible. And so you got to wonder that, okay, when 6 comes out, I wonder, what else is going to be, accessible
Yeah,
or more accessible, which nobody knows, but
yeah, we don't know. As far as I know, there are no blind people that are testing P3D6.
From a personal perspective, my advice might be hold tight and see what happens with version 6 because you might be throwing $60 away for nothing in particular. There were no changes that stood out to me as being particularly revolutionary. 2024 kind of caught us all by surprise. Going to have a lot of the same architecture as 2020, but with quite significant changes and be a whole new product. Do you guys have any extra info on accessibility and stuff? I'm guessing not, but I'm guessing you're planning on supporting it if you can as well.
Yeah, we don't have anything extra on the accessibility part, but if there's not too many changes in the underlying framework, then yeah, we will support it.
yeah, I think, and it's just my opinion, clearly, I think that, it is still Microsoft, so I feel like the accessibility that Microsoft has now, I think will still be there. But as far as new accessibility, I mean, I have no idea. Um, like I said, there was a track record, and it's hard to not go off that track record, right? So it's like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's another wait and see job. I don't think it's going to be inaccessible. I would be very surprised if the current level of accessibility isn't at least maintained. But yeah, no indications on other future accessibility. But they have said that pretty much everything should work out of the box. So, your aircraft, your community add-ons, generally maybe a few tweaks here and there, but they've pretty much said that it's not going to be a whole rewrite like the process was from P3D to Microsoft, where we had to wait years. So
Right,
that's
right.
that's really positive, and it's going to be interesting. And
They're
also,
probably using a lot. Sorry, Jacqueline. I just gonna say real quick. They're probably using a lot of stuff from 2020
right.
that they've dumped into, 2024.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry about that. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, you're good. I know, I think they are. And I was just going to say 2020 will still be around as well. They're not axing it. So we don't know 2024's kind of hardware requirements yet. So if for whatever reason someone can't run that, then 2020 should still be around for a significant amount of time anyway.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to make mention of talking about 2020 and 2024, and that is some people have been mentioning a taxiway API that Microsoft had created in 2020, and they were hoping that we could use it to help us taxi to and from the runway. I went looking it up just because I was curious and I had the time, and I saw nothing of the sort. What I did see was a taxiway API for people to build taxiways into their custom-made airports. That I did see, but
Right.
I didn't.
But it would have to
I
be
didn't.
customized, basically.
What you do is you have an airport editor. So if you have developer mode in 2020 turned on, you can go to developer menu and you can go to the airport editor. So the airport editor lets you and buildings and runways and all that kind of stuff in your own custom made airport. And so that's what as far as I'm aware of, that's what they were talking about. It's an API to let you build your own taxiways into your own airport.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. I think the thing that people assume, and it is frustrating about 2020, is the AI does such a good job of following the taxiways, and it's very close to allowing us to taxi. I mean, I have used it on VATSIM, but unfortunately, it doesn't allow for custom taxi flows, the default ATC routings, which are not compatible with VATSIM or the real world because they're just very convoluted routings that are rather odd from what VATSIM controllers have told me. So although it does do a good job at taxiing, it's not doing it in necessarily the correct routings, and it is frustrating because we're so close yet still so far. If Microsoft could open that up a little bit more so that somehow something could be inserted rather than purely just the taxi routings from the ATC, who knows on that front. And of course, in other news, the PMDG 777 should be this year. I mean, it's in beta. If not this year, then early next year. Do you guys have any info on that? And I imagine, hopefully, you think some of it will be compatible with what you've already got.
So I don't have anything new on when 77 is coming out. Hopefully, like you said, probably by the end of this year, beginning of next year. And the only thing we have to go on is, since the SDKs for the 37 in P3D and 2020 were almost identical to each other, we're banking on that being the same with the 77. Now, what we had decided to do over the weekend, we were originally going to start the 47 first after we finished the 37 stuff, and then do the 77 last. And we decided over the weekend that we're going to do the 77, the 47 last, because that's the one that PMDG is working on for 2020, and so we want to get it out to people as fast as we can, rather than, they buy it and then it sits on a shelf for a year or two before we can get to it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to do. And, 99% of the infrastructure that it requires is already present. It's just adding some things, moving some things around, and adding a user interface to it. So it's already halfway done.
Yeah. And just to confirm this so people know, so all the 7.3 changes in the upcoming builds that are currently not yet in preview, but eventually will be with the FMC changes, etc. That's all P3D compatible as well, right? So for as long as you can, you're going to keep it P3D and Microsoft.
Yeah. So as far as that goes, as long as PMDG keeps the SDKs identical or as close to identical as possible, then yeah, we support both. The minute they start moving drastically away from similarities between the two, then we'll have to figure out how we're going to support both, or if we're just going to split ways with P3D or whatever.
All right, good to know. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much everything. Was there anything else you or Jason wanted to talk about TFM?
I can't think of anything right offhand.
And like always, if you guys got questions for Jason or Andy, you guys can always, go to the website for TFM, and you can send them emails and stuff like that. And granted, Jason is very busy, and Andy's busy too. But I'm sure Jason will get back to you. But this guy, he's a busy guy. You're a busy guy, Jason. You're busy.
Well, the good thing about the TFM email is that it actually goes to both of us. So
right.
if Andy doesn't get to it, I can. If I don't, Andy, you know what I mean? So we get the same email.
One question I do have before we kind of draw towards the end briefly, if you could, is what are your plans for maybe looking at implementing some of the MSFS default aircraft into TFM and supporting those? I believe I already know what the answer will be since you've talked about a lot of stuff today, but just wanted to put it out there, obviously to you as the developers of TFM. What are your plans currently about?
Nothing in the plans.
Nothing. Yeah, no, nothing right now.
The project by definition is open source, right? So if there's somebody out there that has some coding knowledge and wants to contribute, we will happily take a pull request on GitHub from you. Like it's,
Yep.
Right.
you know, it
Right.
doesn't have to be just us, right? Like if anybody wants to contribute,
Yeah.
they can.
Yeah, because I mean, you guys stay busy, you know, outside of what you do without programming, right? You know, your other jobs and stuff, but it's just a
Yep.
lot. So to have someone say, "Hey, man, I can do that. I know how to do this plane or that." I'm sure you guys would be like, "Hey, come on in." So
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. The other thing I just talking about doing GA airplanes. There's a GPS unit that has an FMC apparently built into it, Garmin 3000. Apparently, Navigraph, while we were at Expo, had told us that they use something called the avionics framework by working title is what its name is.
There, yeah, working title. Yeah.
And so they're able to insert their charts and their graphics and all that stuff into the Garmin. And they alluded to us, well, if we can put things into it, maybe you can actually pull things out of it. And they also alluded to the fact that just about every aircraft in 2020 that makes use of some form of FMC or autopilot or GPS uses a Garmin at least 3000 if you have the avionics 2 update. So they alluded to us to experiment around and see if we could pull things out of it and to what extent we could pull things out of it. So just a bug in everybody's ear that we at some point might be looking at that.
Is that in the citation? Is that what it's in? Potentially the G3000, or is it a universal thing that can they have in several GA planes?
Yeah, from what I
I think
understand,
it's several.
Right.
yeah, from what I understand, it's just about every aircraft that a Sobel made use of a Garmin of some kind.
Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, and we haven't looked at it at all yet. Like we haven't looked at it at all yet, and
Yeah.
and sometimes you end up in situations where, you know, stuff inside the sim can access things, but it's getting
Yeah.
data out of the sim.
Yeah.
That's why Fly by Wire had to do this whole thing with SimBridge, because they've got basically the aircraft in the sim communicates, you know, out to this outside application, so then you can actually get data out of it. So it's yeah, and it's complicated. So we're still, you know, we haven't even looked at it yet, but it was interesting that Navigraph brought it up to us.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That we'll keep an eye on that one. All right then. Yeah, I think unless you've got anything else, John, I think we've pretty much gone round and covered it all in shorter time than I thought.
no,
so.
yeah, Jason, it's really good to see you, man. It's been a long time. I know you've been busy, and it's just good to hear your voice, man, and see, you know, it's good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah. Well, and I was gonna say too, one of the coolest things about the expo was actually getting to meet Andy in person.
Oh yeah, yeah. We bunked
Yeah,
up in the same room
exactly.
for the weekend, so yeah, and we got to live with each other
Didn't
for
kill
the
each
weekend.
other, so I think
Yeah, no,
I think we're good.
I think other things could have.
Andy had his
yeah.
he had his attack dog with him. I guess you felt
That's right.
like you were in a corner, didn't you, Jason? Like, man, I can't do nothing now.
Yeah.
No, it's good to have you,
great.
man. Good to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks very much for coming on. I'm sure if we get any developments on the projects we talked about, we'll be doing sneak peeks and podcasts and weekly updates and all that kind of stuff that hopefully is useful for people. And yeah, you can email us bvipilotspodcast@gmail.com, or probably the easier way is to go to bvipilots.net and use the contact us form. You can find the WhatsApp groups there as well, and
Yeah, sure.
there is also a groups.io mailing list. So yeah, thanks very much, Andy and Jason, for John for coming along, Marshall for recording, and yeah, we'll see you all in the next podcast.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
And with that, another BVI Pilots podcast has landed.